At the end of February, the national average for a 30-year fixed mortgage hit 5.99%. Affordability is at its best that it's been in a long, long time. So today we're going to get you ready to leverage this for you by answering the 7 most popular first-time homebuyer questions asked. Let's get you the answers so you can take advantage of all this. Let's do this.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What's up, my How to Buy a Homies? Man, I'm excited about today. Lots of really exciting information I want to drop for you. Now, if you're brand new, you can listen to this, but then jump right to episode 400. That's your best place to start. And if you're here looking for the really detailed information about what's going on in the current market, that's the last episode, 457. We'll put that episode guide for you in the show notes so you can find those. You could search through the titles in the episode guide if you're looking for questions about things that we don't get to today. Information on everything first-time homebuyer, it's all there. And hey, I know some of you have been listening for a while, so I'd like to ask you a quick favor. If this is helping you in any way, please take 90 seconds and write a review for us, because now more than ever, we need to get this message out to buyers who just feel helpless. Seriously, if you could pause, write a quick review, put it up on Spotify, Apple, or Google, wherever you want to put it, and then come on back, then we can keep doing this show for you commercial-free. Okay, before I get into the questions, in January, I reported that there were 47% more sellers than buyers. Well, I just saw today it got amended to 44%. So even through a crazy blizzard in a lot of the country, the buyers are coming out in 2026. The good news is 44% more sellers than buyers is still great. You've still got tremendous leverage. And when you pair that with the interest rates, that's looking good. This is the second largest gap, that 44%. All the way back to 2013. Gang, people who keep saying, I can't wait for things to get affordable again. This is it. I don't know if prices are going to move, but this is really where affordability is in your corner once you understand all your options. Now, that 44% more sellers than buyers, that's a national statistic, and it's definitely not that way everywhere. But overall, this is a really good sign of leverage for you guys. The numbers, they're insane in some cities. Like in Fort Lauderdale, they have 128% more sellers than buyers. Austin, Texas has 124% more. Nashville has 120% more. And San Antonio has 114% more sellers than buyers. Now let's get into the questions. I'm going to answer question 1 of the 7 most popular questions asked by first-time home buyers. And this is where the good news comes in. What are the best mortgage rates right now? Well, homies, that's where I have that great news. As I record this right now, the end of February, the national average for 30-day fixed interest rate, it dropped to 5.99%, and it stayed there for 2 days, which, by the way, that is incredible on its own. But the fact that it's 5.99, well, that's the magic number that a lot of people have been waiting for, and it happened. This is the lowest interest rate since August 2022. Another thing I want you to keep in mind about that is that 5.99%, that's the national average. We're seeing regular buyers, nothing special, when they're working with the right team, getting quotes in the last couple days of 5.55% and even 5.3%. So when you're looking for the best interest rate, well, you combine that with the inventory, the number of sellers outweighing the buyers by a ton. This is the most leveraged first-time home buyers have had in over 3 years. This is exciting news for you right now. What's not exciting to me is the fact that this question, how do I get the best interest rate, is by far the #1 most popularly asked question by potential first-time home buyers. That does not stoke me out. That, my friends, is why millions of capable first-time home buyers are feeling like homeownership is impossible. See, focusing on interest rates with such magnitude, it's just not mathematically logical. And you know I love to look at everything through the lens of the math. Unfortunately, though, everybody seems to do it. And they get discouraged without knowing all the possibilities to help them find affordability when interest rates are in the 6%. 6% is normal. Those rates of 3 and 4% aren't coming back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the solutions to help you delete all the stress and overwhelm when you're looking at 5.99 or 6% and trying to figure out what to do with that interest rate. In a home purchase, There are far greater mathematical components that will save buyers so much more, like so much more than just that one variable of the interest rate. Of course, yes, it's part of the cost, but it's definitely not the driving factor that everyone's making it out to be. And it doesn't have to be the sole piece to determine if a home is affordable for you. Most people, when they're looking at homes, they calculate affordability in just two areas. They're looking at the upfront costs, down payment and closing costs, and then they're looking at the monthly payment, which of course is created through the interest rate. But to find your true financial evaluation of if a home is affordable for you, that comes in calculating your own personal rent replacement strategy. That's a whole bunch of different variables. You're going to be outlining more than just the cost to buy the home and what you pay for it monthly. That math includes factors like this: the financial benefit of using your rent for you. We're going to be looking at what are the cost differences between renting and owning. And I'm talking about the full picture. That's the rent replacement strategy. Another factor is adding in the tax benefits, which are huge for homeowners. And then, of course, making sure that you're looking at the fixed payment that's not going to go up year after year. And the biggie, the equity and the wealth that you gain, because a home is a forced savings account, using your money for your future, starting the first month that you buy it. All of that is broken down for you in episode 440. Now, once you have a full grasp on that, please do me a favor and consult episode 426 on low down payment options and 423, which will help you with affordability, so you can hear the full financial picture and understand why an interest rate should bear far less weight than it does for most aspiring first-time homebuyers. And if you're overwhelmed or disenchanted by this, if you're thinking, dude, really, all I wanted was answer the question, how to get the best interest rate, and like you're giving me homework, man, you're sending me to 3 other full episodes. Okay, fair point. I get it. Now let me explain to you why I do that. After 7 years of producing a free podcast whose only mission is to educate and empower the ignored first-time homebuyers out there, I should hope that I've got hours and hours of more information and clarity on every single subject, including interest rates and home affordability. Now, sure, I could have just read you the question and then given you a stock answer, and then do what most people do when they answer first-time homebuyer questions, try to pressure you to call me directly so that I can get you that deal, and most importantly, so I can get paid. But you know what? I would rather that you get educated. I want you to make your decisions with confidence in the process. You deserve to understand as much of this complex process as you can so that you can move forward asking questions, but asking them confidently. This is going to save you from being house poor and help you assuredly move into the best options for you, including, but not prioritizing, the interest rate you can get. Because real wealth and stability in your purchase, that comes from not just asking questions, but knowing why you're asking the questions and how they fit into the full financial picture. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging here today. That's not the end of my answer. I'm going to go ahead and drop some math on you. This will help illustrate how rates affect your ability to buy, but you got to promise me you're going to go back and listen to those other episodes, because when you have that bigger context, it really helps you put this one variable of interest rates into your personal affordability challenge. Now, bear this in mind as I do this. This math is ignoring the huge ongoing financial benefits that I just mentioned. So it's not all the math, it's just a piece of math to help you wrap your head around that one piece of interest rates. When people start out, they just grab onto the one thing that they can figure out and calculate, because all that other stuff, that's big math. And a lot of times it doesn't really become clear to you till you talk to an advisor who's helping you figure out what the best thing for you to do is, not the first thing for you to do. So I understand that these are tangible. And so people grab these two items and they put them in a spreadsheet, the upfront cost and the monthly payment. So I'm going to give you this math, but remember all those other things I just mentioned. And remember, your real affordability comes in the deeper evaluation of the lost rent that you pay as well, and the future calculations of the gains that you're going to make as a homeowner. Depending on how much rent you pay, sometimes it's not, can you afford it? The question is really, if you keep renting a few more years and lose tens of thousands of dollars, can you afford not doing it by sticking around and waiting for a better rate? Here's the math. Mortgage rates, they've been between 8 and 6% for 3 years now. So let's take a look at the difference between a $400,000 home purchase with 5% down payment, and we'll look at the difference between 6.9 and 5.9%. Drum roll, please. That is $250 a month. Did that shock you? 6.9 to 5.9 seems like a huge drop. It's $250 a month. Would it also shock you to know that over 20 years, I have seen many buyers who are working with savvy unicorn-style lenders who give them the full picture, and after they've evaluated all of that, they actually chose a higher interest rate with a creative program because it fit better for their individual needs, all their goals put into one. Would it also shock you to know that during the time when interest rates were at 7% and 8%, home values kept going up? People found the options that I laid out in all those homework episodes, and they bought homes. Keep that in mind as we're only 48 hours into rates being at 5.99% and the snow's starting to melt. And yeah, I'm expecting buyers to come out, I'd say in droves, probably pretty soon. Let me give you some more math. Last year, a $400,000 home with 5% down at a 6.9 interest rate, that payment was $2,900. Today, we did the math, $250, right? The payment is $2,650. Except if you were one of those people last year that were waiting for the rates to go from 6.9 to 5.99, well, the home value kept going up. So today, that $400,000 home is $416,000. And that means the monthly payment, even with the 5.9% interest rate, that's $2,750. So now you're only looking at $150 a month, which is only $1,800 saved in this year while you are waiting for that huge drop in interest rates. But it also is an enormous loss in all the previously mentioned gains in just 1 year of home ownership, especially when we compare it to the $1,800. And then here's the kicker with all that. With the right planning and a team of advisors and advocates that are explaining all the full financial possibilities to the buyer, well, they probably could have afforded to buy that home when it was at 6.9%, but it only would have been $400,000. And this year, they could have refinanced back down to 5.9%, effectively getting the home for cheaper, but still getting the same rate as today as Edit. Effectively, still getting the home for cheaper, but at the same rates as today's buyers. Plus, they would have had a full year of all those home ownership benefits. Because real home ownership wealth comes in your time in the market, not trying to time the market. Each year that you own, your wealth builds gigantically. $150 a month is peanuts compared to the real savings. If you didn't pay rent for another year, you put that money into your home, a forced savings account, and now you have an asset growing in your name that provides big tax benefits in a historically proven wealth creator. So that's it on interest rates. Make sure you listen to those other episodes to understand the full picture about affordability. Let's move to question number 2 on the list. How much do I need for a down payment? Now, this is a great follow-up to the rate question because now we could take what we learned about interest rates and affordability and add this knowledge to start building your full formula for your rent replacement strategy to try to find affordable housing for you. The down payment and the closing costs, they're big variables, but they're the variables that come as your upfront costs. And sometimes I know I'm really bummed out when I hear how insurmountable people think they are. And I get it. You get a little bit of information, you plug it in, and then you're like, nope, can't pull that off. And I tell people, my conservative estimate for people is set a savings goal for a 5% down payment and 3% per closing costs. That's 8% total, or $32,000 on a $400,000 home. Now, a lot of people, they need a year or two to get to that. So if you just research on your own, or if you listen to my episode where I say you need 8%, well, then you're going to get those numbers and you're going to punch them into a mortgage calculator and you're going to be very discouraged. So let me show you the math when you work with a qualified first-time homebuyer professional who specializes in creative solutions. That 8%, that's a target, but the numbers needed, they end up cutting that $32,000 in half. That is a conservative estimate. With the right team, we consistently see numbers much, much lower because there are many different things you can do to cut down your initial costs. Now, does that change your idea on what you can afford? Instead of $32,000, what if you just needed $16,000? How quickly could you get that together? When would you be ready to buy a house? That's real housing affordability much sooner than waiting for a change in interest rates or waiting for the prices to drop. With the rates, you are dealing in hundreds of dollars of difference in your monthly payment. With a favorable housing market and the right team, when we talk about your down payment, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of difference in your upfront cost of entry. The first way to lower that cost of entry is down payment assistance programs or grants. You could get $5,000, $10,000 for down payments for your closing costs, and you can use more than one in some situations. They call it stacking. We've seen people get $20,000, $30,000 cash back to them. The other thing that can happen is seller credits. In this favorable market, this is huge. We're talking asking the seller to give you cash, and it could be $1,000, it could be $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And that's for homes in the $300,000 and $400,000 range. If you're in a high cost of living area looking at, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes, there are many instances, especially in this market right now, where buyers can get 30, 40, 50 grand in credits back to them. And you can use them for your initial costs in your down payment and closing costs, or you can use them to buy down your loan. That reduces your monthly payment. So you see how it all goes together? And depending on the individual buyer, if you got a $10,000 credit from the seller, the buyer might try to figure out, oh, wait, do I want to use this towards my closing costs so I can keep the cash in the bank? Or do I want to use this to lower my monthly payment by using it to buy down the loan? It's completely your call, whatever works for you. You're creating a situation to help you not feel house poor. Do you want to keep more cash or do you want to lower your monthly payment? That's up to you. And that's a bigger plan than just punching your numbers into some mortgage calculator. And while that's got your wheels turning, there's also the creative strategy of using a lower down payment. Even if you have more money, if you've got 10%, looking at a 5% or a 3% down payment, that will open the door for entry for you so you can come in with a lot of extra cash. That can help you to afford what might be a new higher monthly payment. Also, this is a place where we see a lot of people who didn't think they could get in find out, oh my gosh, I only need 3% or 3.5% down payment, and now I can buy a home. Suddenly, it's much more attainable. And if you're in a rural area, you can oftentimes use the USDA loan. That's a zero down payment. And of course, the VA loan is one of my all-time favorites. That's for military families and veterans. And I've also heard this year that sometimes zero down payment loans are popping up as affordable housing solutions, whether it's at a credit union or a local bank or through a local mortgage broker. All these low down payment options, including busting the 20% myth, they're all in episode 426. So what kind of down payment do you need? It depends. What's the best down payment for you to create the best financial strategy for yourself? But good thing to know is it's probably a lot lower than you think. Affordability is so much more than the interest rates and the prices when you're factoring in your upfront costs. If you could save tens of thousands of dollars on the cost of entry, how does that affect affordability for your individual world? So with interest rates expected to stay in this 5.8, 5.9 to about 6.2 range for pretty much the rest of 2026, and prices expected to increase when the competition comes out in a few months when they hear about these low interest rates, how do you calculate your best affordable option? But as I mentioned, a lot of people look at the interest rate and that's where they stop their research. And that's tragic. There's so much more to help you hit your financial goals. So as I said, don't let mortgage calculators be your guide. We consistently people buy homes with 50 to 75% less of what some article or some mortgage calculator tells them that they need. And a lot of times they even get a better rate than they found and punched into that calculator. So make sure you find a team who understands all your options and can lay them out for you. Affordability comes in how much money you need to bring to the table. And this down payment piece is important because when we're looking at overall affordability, how much you need to bring to the table, that's going to really affect things for you. The rates are one piece, down payment is another one, but overall, the real affordability, it's a complex equation of multiple different factors, exploring all the other options on all the other variables to save you much more than just the rate can. So in 2026, right now, you're in good shape. We've got interest rates at 3-year lows, and in at least half the country, this winter, those seller credits are ripe for the picking. But of course, that's just this winter. We'll see what happens as things start to get competitive in the spring. So let's shift your focus to the big picture savings and the cost to buy solutions that are in the thousands of dollars, not hundreds. You don't have to let the fear of being house poor keep you from discovering life-rich options. So summing up affordability, math is the math. Prices and rates, sure, they're going to move the needle a little, but real affordability comes when your team lays it all out and shows you all your options. Okay, the third question of the most popular questions first-time homebuyers are asking the all-knowing internet. How do I know if I'm ready to buy? Okay, well, we've answered that. Clearly not with a mortgage calculator. So breaking down the answer to this question, I guess I need to put this into two different categories, therapist and accountant. So first thing I would do is I would ask them, no, what do you mean, psychologically or financially? Because the financial question I have answered on this podcast here a ton. And it's pretty simple. In most places, if you're paying the average rent for a 2 or 3 bedroom place, you don't have to save a lot to be ready to buy a home. Like I said, those upfront costs, they can be a lot less than you think. And you can implement your own rent replacement strategy. There, you're ready. That's it. Because the sooner you own, the more wealth you accumulate. The 10-step first-time homebuyer program I mentioned at the top of the show, it's at episode 400. It breaks down all the details on all the other pieces that people think they need to know about to figure out if they're ready, their credit scores, their debt, and their savings. Oh, and we've also covered self-employed buyers. That's in the episode guide. We've talked about the 20% and the PMI myths. We've talked about buying with a partner, if you should or if you shouldn't. There's lots more of that on all the episodes. Check the show notes for that. But the rule of thumb is if you rent for the local average, then once you got that down payment together, you should be able to buy a starter home with the right pre-planning. Now, when it comes to the psychological angle of knowing if you're ready, that question is one that has so much misinformation that I'm going to beg you over the microphone right now. Beg you to talk to a professional. Talk to someone who is a first-time homebuyer specialist who cares, who has empathy, compassion, and expertise. Because for 7 years here, 72% of the buyers that come to How to Buy a Home and they tell me, you know what, I'm 12 to 18 months out and I just want to get started on the planning, they're under contract in 3.2 months. So I will lean into that data, that statistic to answer the question. How do you know if you're ready to buy a home? Well, apparently, according to the data, most of you can buy, but most of you just don't know it. And that is yet again another tragedy. Of course, I need to give big thanks and love to the greedy big real estate machine who've only been focusing on sellers for the last 80 years and screwing over first-time homebuyers so that the third most popular question on the internet is, am I ready to buy? Newsflash, nobody knows for sure because unfortunately, when people reach out to try to get that question answered, they get funneled to the first-time homebuyer people that the real estate industry just pushes on them. And those are undertrained, inexperienced newbies who are leading the education. Massive air quotes there. First-time homebuyers, you guys deserve better. That's what we're doing here. Question number 4. Are there programs that make buying easier in 2026? Now, I dug a little deeper on this one because there were some common follow-up questions. What grants can help first-time homebuyers in 2026? And does my city or state offer down payment assistance? Here's the deal. There are over 2,500 down payment assistance programs nationwide. And the thing about it is, no, there's no one set list. No, the websites to find them, they're not great. In fact, they kind of suck because they're government, county, and city websites. But here's what you need to understand. The reason they suck is because nobody can update them because they change all the time, the programs. But most importantly, they're also different, not just state to state, but county to county and sometimes city to city. So the best way to find your local advantageous first-time homebuyer down payment assistance programs is to talk to someone who does this stuff full time. Your local team, Unicorn Realtor and Lender, they're going to have all the answers because they do this every single day. And you are not bugging anyone by asking them this question. And if they make you feel like you're bugging them, you don't want to hire them anyway. Question number 5, is 2026 actually a good year for first-time home buyers? I think I've kind of answered that throughout this episode. Yeah, for most renters, it totally is. And if there wasn't enough information here, go to episode 457. You'll hear all the current market data and you'll get the insider secret stat, low inventory. And anyone out there saying, should I wait or should I try to buy a home in 2026? All right, you could wait and you could keep an eye on the market as the spring competition heats up, or you could listen to the data reported by a super real estate nerd who's been reporting on the low inventory and the price increases that seem illogical but keep happening since 2019, and then take advantage early in this year because interest rates are down, and as the snow melts, you know the rest. Question number 6, how do I compete when prices are still high? Great question. And the question has multiple ways that I could interpret what they really want to know behind asking that question. One answer is, hell yeah, you can compete. Just because you're a first-time home buyer, don't worry about it. Your team, your realtor and your lender, if they're experienced, if they're real first-time home buyer pros, they can make your offer just as competitive as any other offer, even a cash offer. See, the secret is sellers, of course, they want the best price, but what they want more is a sure deal. Oftentimes, they're going to take that even over an offer that offers more money. Your team's professionalism and presentation of you and your offer, that is paramount in your success of your offer being accepted. So hire the best, and you're going to become irresistible to home sellers. The presentation of your ability to close a deal, that's just as important as the numbers on the piece of paper. And then if someone's asking how do they compete with the high prices because they're trying to figure out how to put their own personal equation together, that one's simple. Know your numbers. I've heard that so many different times in the interview episodes. When I go out and I find people and I interview them and ask them to tell me the story, most of the time people tell me that was the best thing we did. Or they tell me, when I say, what's the one big piece of advice you can give people? They're like, oh God, I wish I'd done this earlier. Know your numbers. You can find all these interviews in the episode guide, find that in the show notes. You hear where renters explained how by working the pre-planning with a realtor and a lender consulting, they knew months ahead of time, way before they ever went out home shopping, what price point was going to work for them. And they also understood how they were going to pay for it. And then finally, I'll look at this interpretation on this question. If someone's asking, how do I compete? Because they want to learn all the tricks and the tactics that buyers can use to finagle a deal, this is what I have to tell you guys. If you're trying to learn all this for yourself so that you can tell your realtor or your lender, that's the surest way to not get a deal. My best advice to you is, instead of spending all this time trying to figure out how to do someone else's job, take that time that you're researching all these tips and tricks that you're trying to find and quadruple it, 10-tuple it, and put that into researching who you're going to hire so that you can have a trusted advisor with you. The game changes constantly and you need someone full-time. They're the person that's going to know all the tricks. Check their credibility. Are they unicorn level? If you have to tell your realtor or lender about some tactic that you think is going to help get your offer accepted or help you compete because you read about it on the internet, then man, that's it. That's the wrong team. The final piece of that puzzle is home buying. It's ever changing. Every single home purchase is different than the last one, so there is no blueprint or playbook. The taxes that work one time might not work the next time. So your best tactic moving forward is to hire a team that knows all the tactics because they're in this every single day, full-time and experienced. Okay, question number 7. What steps should I take first? Well, this one's easy. I started this 7 years ago and it took me a little while, but I finally got the perfect starter kit for you. So go to episode 400. That's where you're going to start the #1 trusted first-time homebuyer step-by-step program in the country with, by the way, proven results. Thank you interviews. Homies, getting started, that's the one thing I can't emphasize enough. And that's where you can do it. And at the beginning, it's just planning. You're not committing to anything. And with the right team, true advocates who love to consult, they really get excited about doing it earlier and earlier because they realize that they're going to set you up for the maximum success. I mean, sure, can I help someone buy a home this weekend if they reach out and call me and I've never talked to them before? Yeah, but there's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through. There's going to be a lot of struggling, a lot of late nights. But when I know I've been talking to someone for 6 months, 8 months, a year, and they've been talking to a lender, and we've been going over different programs, watching the market, explaining everything, helping people build up their credit, helping people figure out what is going to work for them, and maybe go through 5 or 6 different scenarios before we ever go out to buy a home. And once everyone gets all that information on the same page, boom, the stress melts away when we're out looking at homes because everybody knows what they're getting into. In fact, the real professionals, they are as upset as I am that first-time home buyers aren't being taught to reach out early. And they do, unfortunately, in those crazy, stressful, short-term situations, a lot of times they end up with inexperienced, untrained, so-called realtors. And sometimes it doesn't work out and they get discouraged. And then they lose out on years of what could have been such a good thing for them. That was the 7 most popular from the internet. If your question didn't make the list, be sure to check the show notes for the episode guide. That's where you can find whatever questions you're asking, whatever topics you're interested in. And if you don't see it there, or you just want to go straight to the horse's mouth, don't understand that saying, but I just said it anyway. HowToBuyAHome.com has an Ask David button. It's been there since the very beginning, and you can ask me. And yeah, it's the real me. It's not a robot. It might take me like 24 hours to respond to everybody, but I do respond to them all myself. That's because this isn't just a podcast. It's a mission. It's a revolution to change the way first-time homebuyers get into the game. Because after 20 years, I know one thing. With the right guidance, you can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyaHome.com to get started.